Hey everyone, in my video series on the main antagonists from Batman, the animated series, today it's Two-Face's turn. Harvey Dent, once Gotham City's charismatic and righteous district attorney, is one of the most tragic characters in the Batman universe. As Two-Face, he embodies the theme of split personality like few others. In the series, he is portrayed not just as a villain, but as a tragic figure, a man in constant struggle with himself. His story is one of loss, betrayal, and inner turmoil, marked by the tragic fall from hero to villain. Two-Face appears in 10 out of 85 episodes. I generally exclude cameo appearances. Let's first take a look at all these episodes together and what we learn about Two-Face from them. Episode 1, On Leatherwings. A police airship patrols over Gotham City when the pilots spot a giant, bat-like creature in the sky. Shortly thereafter, a creature breaks into Phoenix Pharmaceuticals and attacks a guard, who falls into the river, severely injured. The next day, Commissioner Gordon, Mayor Hamilton Hill, and District Attorney Harvey Dent meet to discuss the threat posed by Batman. Detective Harvey Bullock demands a special task force to capture Batman. Gordon objects, but Hill approves it anyway. Harvey Dent promises to prosecute Batman criminally if Bullock catches him. Batman investigates on his own and discovers that similar break-ins occurred at other pharmaceutical companies. During an undercover investigation, he finds audio recordings and evidence pointing to a giant bat creature. As Bullock's task force storms the building, Batman narrowly escapes. His investigations lead Bruce Wayne to the Gotham Zoo, where he meets Dr. March, his daughter Francine, and her husband Kirk Langstromm. An audio recording that he plays is not recognized by the Langstroms. Later, Kirk Langstromm turns out to be the Man-Bat, a hybrid of man and bat, who attacks Batman. After an aerial battle with the police airship, Batman is able to defeat Langstromm. In the Batcave, Batman develops an antidote that heals Langstromm. Batman suspects, however, that this is not the end of the threat. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? Harvey Dent is introduced as the District Attorney of Gotham. He is already an important political figure whose word carries weight. Dent appears charming, professional, and has the mayor's trust. His attitude towards Batman shows that he wants to enforce the law uncompromisingly. Although Dent remains polite, his insistence on putting Batman behind bars suggests a potentially strict, almost fanatical attitude towards law and order. This is a subtle hint at his future split personality as Two-Face, where right and wrong are fated to be decided. Episode 5, Pretty Poison. 5 years before the current events, the construction of the Stonegate prison is initiated on an open plot of land. Harvey Dent, the driving force behind the project, symbolically lifts the first shovel of earth. Unnoticed, a rare wild rose is dug up and rescued by an unknown person. In the present, an inmate escapes from Stonegate but is immediately caught by Batman. In parallel, Harvey Dent is on a date in a restaurant with his attractive girlfriend Pamela Isley, while they wait for Bruce Wayne. Dent emphasizes his close friendship with Bruce and unexpectedly announces that he wants to marry Pamela Isley after only 1 week of dating. After a passionate kiss from Isley, Dent suddenly falls into a coma. The doctors determine that he was poisoned, but they have no antidote. Bruce Wayne takes a blood sample to analyze it in the Batcave. The examination reveals that the poison comes from the rare wild rose, a plant thought to be extinct. Alfred discovers that Pamela Isley is an expert on rare plants. When Batman confronts Isley in a greenhouse, she reveals her true identity, Poison Ivy. She explains that Dent must pay for his crimes, the destruction of rare plants for the prison project. Ivy also tries to poison Batman with a kiss, but he manages to break free. In a final battle, a fire breaks out in the greenhouse. Batman saves both Ivy and the wild rose, after which Ivy is forced to hand over the antidote for Dent. Dent recovers in the hospital, but Bruce Wayne admits that Pamela Isley might not be the right one for his friend after all. In Stonegate Prison, Poison Ivy sits in her cell, cradling her rose protectively, with the ominous promise that plants will always grow back. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? Harvey Dent is portrayed as romantic but impulsive. His hasty engagement to Pamela Isley suggests a naive and trusting side. This need for closeness could stem from an inner struggle between his public, flawless facade and a vulnerable, insecure side, a precursor to the later split personality of Two-Face. Dent is the architect of Stonegate, a symbol of law and order in Gotham. Ironically, this prison will later also house Poison Ivy and other criminals, including himself, after he becomes Two-Face. His coma after the poisoning represents a symbolic pause between his old self and the later, destroyed self as Two-Face. Although he has physically recovered, this shows how fragile his world is. A single catastrophe is enough to turn his life upside down. Episode 10, Two-Face, Part 1. Harvey Dent, the charismatic district attorney of Gotham City, is plagued by recurring nightmares in which he encounters a dark doppelganger who constantly flips a coin. The ominous figure whispers, "It's time, Harvey, it's time." After waking up, Dent has to lead a large-scale police raid against Rupert Thorne's gang. With Batman's help, the operation is successful. But during the press conference, Dent suddenly loses control when a captured gangster provokes him. Furious, he lunges at the criminal, a behavior that shocks his colleagues. Seconds later, Dent appears calm again, without remembering his outburst. Rupert Thorne, angry about the destruction of his business, orders his assistant Candace to find dirt on Dent. When Dent shortly thereafter has another public outburst, Bruce Wayne urgently advises him to seek psychiatric help. Although Dent is afraid to show his vulnerable side, he eventually agrees. During a session with psychiatrist Dr. Nora Crest, Dent's second personality, Big Bad Harv, is revealed under hypnosis. This aggressive side mocks Dent and claims to be the strong part of him. Crest realizes that Dent has suppressed his anger for years, which led to this split personality. Later, Dent is blackmailed by Thorne. He threatens to make Dent's dark secret public. But during the confrontation, Big Bad Harv takes complete control. In a fight with Thorne's men, Dent falls from a dock into a chemical tank when an explosion is triggered. Batman saves him, but when the bandages are removed in the hospital, one side of Dent's face is grotesquely disfigured. When his fiancée Grace sees him, Dent desperately flees into the night. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? Even before his transformation, Dent suffers from a split personality. His suppressed anger manifests as Big Bad Harv, which shows that Two-Face does not arise solely from the accident but is also a product of Dent's years of inner turmoil. Dent wants to appear as a flawless hero in public. His fear of being perceived as weak leads him to suppress his anger and insecurities, with catastrophic consequences. The recurring coin is already here a symbol of his inability to make decisions without leaving them to chance, a central feature of his later Two-Face persona. Episode 17, Two-Face, Part 2. Weeks after the accident, Harvey Dent has become the supervillain Two-Face. With his henchmen, the twins Min and Max, he specifically targets establishments owned by Rupert Thorne. He always decides his fate by tossing a two-headed coin, one side flawless, the other scratched. If the bad side lands on top, he strikes. Thorne puts a bounty on Two-Face, $2 million, $1 million for each face. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne is plagued by nightmares in which Dent and his deceased parents accuse him of not being able to save Dent. Bruce vows to bring Dent back. Thorne's henchwoman Candace visits Dent's fiancée Grace and persuades her to activate a tracking device in case Harvey makes contact. Two-Face, meanwhile, is planning Thorne's final downfall and stealing sensitive files that could put Thorne behind bars for good. But when he accidentally finds a photo of himself with Grace, he becomes sentimental. He calls her and asks for a meeting. Grace, who still believes in the good Harvey, nevertheless activates the tracker. The meeting takes place in the Wild Deuce Club, whose interior Dent has divided into two halves, an orderly side and a chaotic side, fitting his split personality. Just as Grace Dent is convinced that she still loves him despite his disfigurement, Thorne storms in with his men. Batman, despite severe injuries from a previous fight, intervenes. When Two-Face wants to execute Thorne, Batman asks him to let the law decide. Dent tosses his coin, but Batman throws a box full of silver dollars into the air and confuses him. Without his coin, Dent is helpless and collapses. The police arrive and arrest Thorne. Two-Face is also taken away, but Grace stays by his side. Batman says hopefully, wherever there is love, there is hope. But when he throws a coin into a well alone, it lands on the good side. The symbolism remains bittersweet. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? In this episode, Dent fully becomes Two-Face. The coin is now his moral compass, he makes no decision without it. His crimes, henchmen, the Wild Deuce Club, and the constant flipping of the coin show that Dent's entire worldview is trapped in a binary perspective, good versus evil, order versus chaos. Despite his transformation, Two-Face still shows feelings for Grace. Her belief in him suggests that the good Harvey still exists deep within him. When Batman loses his coin, Two-Face psychologically collapses. Without the principle of chance, he can no longer make decisions. This illustrates his complete dependence on his new creed. Episode 36, The Strange Secret of Bruce Wayne. The episode begins on a closed bridge, where Judge Maria Vargas encounters two shady men with a bag full of money. Batman watches them secretly, wondering what brings them to this dangerous place. The men show Vargas a videotape and demand more money than she can pay. When Batman intervenes to confront the extortionists, the duo flees, and the mysterious tape is lost. Vargas, who nearly falls off the bridge, is saved by Batman. Batman is irritated as to why a respected judge would exhibit such risky behavior. During the investigation, it turns out that Vargas had recently been at the Yucca Springs Health Resort, which is operated by Daggett Industries. There, the shady Dr. Hugo Strange also works. Bruce Wayne signs up undercover as a patient. Strange uses a machine that supposedly serves for relaxation, but in reality, it reveals the deepest secrets of his patients. During the session, Strange realizes that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Strange then plans to sell Wayne's secret to the highest-bidding criminals of Gotham. He contacts the Joker, the Penguin, and Two-Face, all of whom appear at the resort with large bags of money. Alfred notices this and warns Bruce, but Strange captures Wayne before he can escape. While Strange holds an auction for Batman's secret, where the villains bid millions, Bruce manages to escape. He manipulates the playback device so that it now shows Strange admitting to having invented Batman's identity to make money. The enraged villains no longer believe him and pursue him. Strange tries to save himself by assuring Two-Face, Joker, and Penguin once again that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Ironically, Two-Face replies, "I know Bruce Wayne. If he was Batman, then I am the King of England." In the end, Batman saves the situation by preventing the villains' escape by plane. Dr. Strange is arrested while Bruce Wayne and Batman seemingly appear at the crime scene at the same time, thanks to Dick Grayson, who disguised himself as Wayne. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? Despite his own split personality, Two-Face finds it ridiculous that Bruce Wayne could be Batman. His sarcastic remark shows that he perceives Wayne as too soft and privileged to be a dark avenger. Two-Face probably knows Bruce Wayne from his time as a district attorney. The belief that someone like Wayne cannot carry a trauma underscores Dent's own fall, from the respected DA to the criminal Two-Face. Two-Face is not convinced by the evidence presented by Strange either. This suggests that his split personality harbors deep mistrust towards others, even when it comes to lucrative information. Episode 46, Almost Got Him. In the criminal bar The Stacked Deck, some of Batman's most notorious enemies gather: the Joker, the Penguin, Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, and Two-Face. While they play cards, they argue about who was closest to killing Batman. Every villain tells their story. Two-Face reports on his plan to rob the Gotham Mint, exactly $2 million in $2 bills, fitting his penchant for the theme of two. During the robbery, Batman is overwhelmed by the Two-Ton Gang, Two-Face henchmen. Two-Face decides to determine Batman's fate using his infamous coin. The bad side of the coin shows that Batman is to die. Two-Face ties Batman to a giant coin that is to be launched with a catapult. If it lands with the front side down, Batman will be crushed. With the front side up, his bones will be broken. But Batman tricks Two-Face by stealthily stealing his coin during the fight. In the air, Batman can free himself with the coin and escapes. Two-Face is arrested. Much to his annoyance, Batman was allowed to keep the giant penny as a trophy, which can later be seen in the Batcave. The episode ends with a twist. Batman was disguised in the bar the whole time as Killer Croc. With the help of Catwoman, Batman captures the other villains. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? This episode highlights that Two-Face leaves every decision, even murder, to the coin. This shows his inability to make moral decisions on his own, a symbol of his split psyche. The robbery of the Gotham Mint for $2 bills illustrates how deeply this symbolism shapes his criminal thinking. Despite his past as a rational jurist, Two-Face now relies solely on chance and chaos, a contrast to the law-abiding Harvey Dent. His anger over Batman being allowed to keep the giant penny shows that, despite everything, he values symbols and his criminal style. Episode 57, Shadow of the Bat, Part 1. The episode begins with a nighttime operation in which Rupert Thorne oversees an illegal shipment in a warehouse. The operation is interrupted by the GCPD under the leadership of Commissioner Gordon and his deputy Gil Mason. Thorne tries to escape but is confronted by Batman on the roof. Thorne is the third mafia boss to be arrested thanks to Mason's informant. Bruce Wayne, however, becomes suspicious of Mason. At home, Barbara Gordon practices gymnastics while her father teases her about her budding relationship with Mason. Shortly thereafter, Mason appears and arrests Commissioner Gordon on the grounds that he accepted bribes from Thorne. Bruce Wayne reacts angrily, as he is convinced that the evidence is fabricated. Barbara turns to District Attorney Janet Van Dorn, but she points to the overwhelming evidence. Bullock advises Barbara to trust her instincts. Subsequently, a public rally in support of Gordon is organized. Batman examines the evidence at the police station and discovers that it is fake. He also learns about a new criminal organization in Gotham. At Gordon's request, Batman visits Barbara and warns her not to get involved. But Barbara ignores this warning and plans to make a statement herself. During the rally, it is not Batman who appears, but Barbara in a homemade batsuit as Batgirl. During the event, a car with machine guns attacks the crowd. Barbara acts instinctively, saves Mason, and is almost unmasked by Robin in the process. Later, Dick Grayson realizes from video footage that Mason had already dodged before the shots were fired, as if he had anticipated the attack. Barbara searches the police database and identifies one of the attackers as Mad Dog. When she tries to inform Mason about it, she discovers Mad Dog in Mason's apartment. Confused, she flees. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne is undercover as Matches Malone. He follows Mad Dog into an abandoned theater but is captured. There he meets the mastermind, Two-Face, who has built a new criminal organization underground after his last battle with Batman. Two-Face lets his coin decide what should happen to Matches. The coin lands on the scarred side. Bruce is knocked down. Barbara realizes that she can trust no one but herself. Determined, she slips into the Batgirl costume once again, ready to save her father. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? After his last defeat, Two-Face has withdrawn and secretly built a new criminal organization. He strategically positioned Gil Mason in the police force to indirectly control power in Gotham. As usual, Two-Face decides the fate of his enemies with a coin toss, once again demonstrating his dependence on chance and duality. Two-Face not only wants to rise to the top as a crime boss, but also to politically infiltrate Gotham by making Mason the police chief and himself the undisputed ruler of the underworld. Episode 61, Shadow of the Bat, Part 2. The second episode picks up seamlessly, Batgirl and Robin meet on a rooftop in front of Mason's apartment. Robin tries to persuade her to retreat, but Batgirl refuses. Meanwhile, Mason receives a call from Two-Face, who arranges a meeting. They follow Mason to an old subway entrance, where Two-Face Bruce Wayne, still disguised as Matches, confronts Mason. In a crucial moment, Two-Face reveals his plans. Harvey Dent deliberately promoted Mason to gain control over the police through Mason after his transformation into Two-Face. Mason is supposed to replace Commissioner Gordon while Two-Face becomes Gotham's most powerful crime boss. But the game of hide-and-seek is interrupted when Batgirl is discovered. A shootout ensues, Two-Face and Mason flee, and blow up the entrance to the subway tunnel to trap Batman and Robin. As an additional precaution, Two-Face floods the tunnel. Batgirl proves her skills by saving Robin from drowning. Batman, Robin, and Batgirl manage to escape, but Two-Face has meanwhile freed Gordon from prison and plans to kill him. At Bayshore Wharf, Mason finally reveals his true intentions. He wants to become not only commissioner but also mayor of Gotham, with Two-Face as the puppet master in the background. But Batgirl appears, uses gas grenades, and enables Gordon to escape. Batman and Robin arrive and fight Two-Face and his gang. When Mason tries to escape in a boat, Batgirl follows him. A fight ensues, during which Mason tears off her mask and is horrified to recognize that she is Barbara Gordon. In a final blow, she pushes Mason against the edge of the boat, causing him to lose consciousness. Barbara saves him at the last second before the boat crashes into the Statue of Freedom. At the final press conference, Gordon is rehabilitated. Mason is in a coma but is being charged. When questions about Batgirl arise, Gordon explains that he welcomes her help in Gotham. Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, and Barbara are also present. Bruce suggests that Gotham now has room for another heroine, to which Barbara smiles contentedly. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? This episode once again highlights how far Harvey Dent has fallen. From an honorable district attorney, he has turned into a manipulative crime boss. Two-Face shows more strategic intelligence here than in previous appearances. He used Gil Mason for years to secure political influence. His well-known obsession with the coin remains. Everything is left to chance, from murder plans to seizing power. Two-Face not only wants to rule Gotham but also undermine the institutions he once defended as a prosecutor. This episode shows that Harvey Dent, although fully trapped in the Two-Face personality, is still the intelligent planner who once served Gotham as a prosecutor, but now consumed by greed for power and vengeance. Episode 68, Trial. In Gotham City, Pamela Isley aka Poison Ivy is once again convicted, this time with demands from the new district attorney Janet Van Dorn that she should be sentenced to life imprisonment. Van Dorn publicly claims that Batman is the main cause of Gotham's supercriminals, as his existence has brought them about. In their eyes, he prevents the city from confronting its true problems. During a dinner with Bruce Wayne, Van Dorn is kidnapped. When Batman follows Commissioner Gordon's lead, he is also captured. Both wake up in Arkham Asylum, where Two-Face greets them. Harvey Dent, now Two-Face, organizes a grotesque trial against Batman. Van Dorn is forced to take over Batman's defense. The court is composed as follows: the defendant is Batman. As the prosecutor, Two-Face is acting. The judge is the Joker. The jury consists of Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, Killer Croc, and Riddler. The bailiffs are Scarface and Ventriloquist. Two-Face argues that Batman is the cause of the existence of the villains. But Van Dorn presents brilliant counterarguments. Harley Quinn followed the Joker out of love, Batman had nothing to do with it. Poison Ivy was driven by her own obsession with plants. Mad Hatter became a criminal due to unrequited love and his own madness. When Ivy accuses Batman of making her a criminal because she only wanted to kill Harvey Dent, Van Dorn reveals that Ivy's extremist beliefs existed long before Batman. In the end, Van Dorn realizes that the criminals created Batman, not the other way around. Batman is a reaction to Gotham City's decay, not the cause. Despite Van Dorn's successful defense, the Joker announces that Batman and she are still to be killed. But Batman frees himself with the help of a hidden batarang, and Gordon storms into Arkham with the police to confront the villains. The next morning, Batman and Van Dorn reconcile. She acknowledges that Gotham actually needs Batman, at least for now. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? Harvey Dent blames Batman for his transformation into Two-Face. Although Batman wanted to help him, Harvey sees Batman as the trigger for his downfall. Two-Face orchestrates the entire show trial in Arkham, a sign that his criminal intelligence and leadership qualities remain intact despite his madness. Ivy mentions that her original target was Dent himself. This reminds us that Harvey Dent was once part of the justice system and is now its enemy. His role as a prosecutor in the trial shows that Harvey still sees himself as someone who administers justice, just now according to his own rules. Harvey uses the courtroom scenario to symbolically punish Batman. This suggests that he is not only a criminal but also someone who sees the justice system as corrupt and now determines its rules himself. Episode 80, Second Chance. Batman and Robin watch as Two-Face is taken to the hospital. There, a plastic surgery is to be performed to remove the scars, hoping that this will also make the Two-Face personality disappear. Before the operation, Harvey asks if Bruce Wayne has covered the costs, which shows that a part of his old self still believes in the friendship with Bruce. But before the operation can begin, armed men storm the operating room and kidnap Harvey. Batman and Robin pursue the kidnappers, but they escape. Suspicions fall on Rupert Thorne and Penguin, but both deny any involvement. Batman eventually realizes that Two-Face kidnappers were sent by himself. Harvey's dark side resisted his healing. In a dramatic showdown at the Half Moon Club, Two-Face hideout, Batman confronts him. Two-Face ties Batman to a crane set to be blown up with dynamite, unless his famous coin determines a different fate. But the coin repeatedly lands on the edge, plunging Two-Face into a crisis. Without the coin's decision, he is unable to act. Batman frees himself and Two-Face nearly falls to his death. Batman offers him his hand, but Two-Face refuses to make a decision without his coin. Batman finally reveals that it is a rigged coin that always lands on the edge, a lesson that Harvey himself must make a choice. At the last moment, Two-Face grabs Batman's hand and is saved. What do we learn about Two-Face in this episode? The fact that Harvey signs up for the operation shows that a part of him wants to be healed. However, his dark side deliberately sabotages this chance. This reveals how deeply rooted the conflict between Harvey Dent and Two-Face is. When the coin lands on its edge multiple times, Two-Face falls into an identity crisis. He is psychologically incapable of making decisions without chance, a symbol of his deepest fear of having to take responsibility again. Batman proves that Two-Face's belief in the impartial decision of the coin is a self-deception. When Harvey is forced to make a decision without the coin, it becomes clear that the desire for redemption still lies within him. The episode makes it clear that Harvey Dent is still in there in some way, but that his belief in fate and chance, represented by the coin, prevents him from taking control of his own destiny. Alright, then let's take a detailed look at a characterization of Two-Face once again. Before his transformation into Two-Face, Harvey Dent was the ideal image of a district attorney, charismatic, ambitious, and conscientious. He was known for his determination to enforce the law and free Gotham from corruption. Harvey was not only an important ally for Batman but also one of Bruce Wayne's closest friends. This relationship makes his fall all the more tragic. Despite his success, Harvey already hid dark sides, outbursts of anger and a tendency towards impulsive decisions, as hinted at in the series. These character traits laid the foundation for his later psychological split. Harvey's transformation into Two-Face marks one of the most traumatic moments of the series. During a trial against the crime boss Rupert Thorne, Harvey becomes the victim of an acid attack that disfigures half of his face. This physical damage reflects the inner turmoil that Harvey already carried within him. The disfigurement destroys not only his appearance but also his mental stability. His mind shatters into two halves, Harvey Dent, the sincere district attorney, and Two-Face, the bitter, vengeful criminal. The central theme of Two-Face is his split personality. Two-Face relies entirely on flipping a silver dollar coin to make decisions. One side of the coin is flawless, the other scratched, symbolizing his split soul. This dependence shows his inability to take responsibility, as he believes that chance must decide his fate. In the episode Second Chance, this becomes particularly evident when the coin lands on its edge multiple times. Without its judgment, Two-Face is incapacitated, which shows how deeply rooted his mental disorder is. Two-Face is not a typical criminal acting out of pure greed or malice. Rather, he sees himself as a judge who decides by chance who is right and who is wrong. This perverted form of justice is a reflection of his former profession. In Second Chance, it is revealed that Harvey still lives within him. His willingness to undergo surgery shows the desire for healing. But his dark side sabotages this chance, a sign that Two-Face is not just a mask, but a deeply rooted part of his identity. Additionally, we should consider his relationships with other characters. The relationship between Batman and Two-Face is deeply personal. Batman sees Harvey as a friend he couldn't save. In several episodes, Batman tries to convince Two-Face to return to Harvey Dent. Especially in Second Chance, this bond becomes clear when Batman risks everything to save Harvey. In trial, Two-Face takes on the role of the prosecutor in the grotesque trial against Batman. This suggests that despite his downfall, he still holds a leadership role among the villains. He does not see himself merely as a criminal, but as someone who speaks justice according to his own rules. In trial, Two-Face argues that Batman is responsible for his existence. This shows Harvey's inability to accept his own mistakes. Projecting the blame onto Batman relieves him of having to confront his own failures. Two-Face also symbolizes, in many ways, the torn nature of Gotham City itself, a city that wavers between law and lawlessness, order and chaos. His dependence on chance raises the question of the nature of justice. Is it rational or arbitrary? The coin as a central motif represents the illusion of control. Harvey believes the coin decides for him, but ultimately it is his own inner conflict that guides him. What makes Two-Face one of the most tragic antagonists in Batman, the animated series, is his inability to accept himself. In Second Chance, it becomes clear that Harvey wants to be healed but cannot believe that he deserves it. His fall mirrors Batman's own story, but while Batman forges a code and a mission from his tragedy, Harvey breaks under it. The irony: Harvey Dent was the epitome of law and order as a district attorney, but his refusal to confront his inner demons turned him into Two-Face, Gotham's judge of chaos. Two-Face is not just a villain, he is Harvey Dent's failed ideal. His story is a constant tragedy of choice, the refusal to take responsibility and the dependence on chance. In the series, he is masterfully portrayed as a multifaceted character, whose inner turmoil, moral ambivalence, and psychological conflict make him one of the most fascinating figures in the entire Batman universe. His greatest drama? The realization that he is his own worst enemy, not Batman, not Gotham, but himself. Finally, I will attempt a psychiatric analysis of Two-Face. Harvey Dent, also known as Two-Face, represents one of the most complex characters in the Batman universe. His story is marked by psychological trauma, identity conflicts, and a deep need for control. On the surface, Two-Face is a dangerous criminal, but beneath that exterior lies a person suffering from a severe mental disorder. This analysis examines Two-Face from a psychiatric perspective based on clinical criteria and provides relevant diagnoses according to DSM-5. Harvey Dent was known as a district attorney for his determination, sense of justice, and charm. At the same time, early signs of problems with impulse control, sudden outbursts of anger, and indications of a latent personality disorder became apparent. The acid attack that burned half of his face was the triggering trauma that led to the manifestation of his mental disorders. This event symbolized the rift between his outward image and his inner conflicts. Important symptoms and behaviors of Two-Face are split identity. Harvey often refers to himself in the we form, which indicates the presence of multiple personality parts. Compulsive decision-making. His dependence on the coin suggests a compulsion towards externalized decision-making. Affective instability. Sudden mood swings, temper tantrums, and low frustration tolerance indicate emotional dysregulation. Antisocial behavior. Criminal activities, disregard for social norms, and lack of guilt after committing crimes. Alienation from the self. Harvey perceives his Two-Face personality as separate from the true Harvey Dent. This could result in 4 main psychiatric diagnoses. 1. Dissociative identity disorder, DID. He has 2 distinct personalities, Harvey Dent, the righteous district attorney, and Two-Face, the ruthless criminal. There are indications that Harvey and Two-Face have separate memory accesses. The personalities switch depending on the situation, especially under stress. There is a trauma as a trigger. The acid attack is considered a traumatic event that caused the split. Two-Face thus exhibits all the main criteria for DID, as the identities are clearly differentiated and each have their own values, behavior patterns, and decision-making strategies. 2. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. There is a triggering trauma, the facial injury, which was associated with a massive social and psychological break. He experiences intrusions, such as flashbacks and memories of the moment of the attack. Harvey avoids social contacts and refuses to live as Harvey Dent. He has negative changes in cognition, low self-esteem, blaming Batman, distorted view of the world. Additionally, he shows signs of hyperarousal, irritability, anger outbursts, hypervigilance. PTSD explains the emotional instability, outbursts of anger, and distrust towards others. 3. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. Two-Face exhibits compulsive behaviors. The constant reliance on the coin toss to make decisions indicates a compulsion. Additionally, he also has obsessive thoughts, namely the belief that only chance or the coin can make fair decisions. The coin dependency hinders Two-Face in his daily functioning and renders him incapacitated in crisis situations. This obsessive-compulsive disorder gives Two-Face a form of illusory control that compensates for his inner insecurity. 4. A borderline personality disorder, BPD. He shows unstable interpersonal relationships, such as the intense but unstable relationships, particularly with Bruce Wayne or Batman. He has profound and persistent identity disorder, evident in the split personality. He also exhibits affective instability, meaning strong fluctuations in mood. He also exhibits strong impulsivity, criminal acts, violence, and self-destructive behavior. The borderline symptoms explain Two-Face emotional instability, identity problems, and self-destructive tendencies. The prognosis for Harvey Dent would be cautiously optimistic if early therapeutic intervention is carried out. A stable therapeutic relationship is established to overcome the profound trust deficit, and he learns to develop self-acceptance and take responsibility for his decisions, instead of leaving them to chance.